Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Not So Glory Glory Monday Night podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is Brushy. And I don't need to ask you how you're feeling because I think I know how you're feeling. Um, I was at the game yesterday, total and absolute disaster. It was a pretty good weekend in Manchester until the game started, and then it was downhill from there. Um, United with another absolutely toothless display up front and very, very leaky at the back again. Pretty poor performances from Maguire and Onana, and of course our old friend Diogo Dallo and Crystal Palace were clinical. And Matata scoring against United again. Two strikers' goals, something which we don't see very often at Old Trafford, given our lack of, potent strikers. And Crystal Palace have a really good record against us in recent years, and that is our seventh defeat at Old Trafford this season in the league. And we've had 11 defeats already, and we're only at the 2nd of February. And yeah, it's pretty appalling. And we never looked like we were going to score. I know Dean Henderson made a couple of decent saves, but United, for all their possession, didn't create very much push.
The fact that we started the game without a recognised striker, and then 70 minutes in, two of them came on, and it made bugger all difference. Kind of sums up where we are, doesn't it? Um, yeah. What more is there to say? I was gonna say Chelsea. I was gonna say Crystal Palace are our bogey team, but it seems that half the league are our bogey teams. But yeah, our recent history against them is just absolutely dreadful. I don't think we've scored a goal against them in the last four games.
Yeah, just thinking back this season, we drew 0-0 at Selhurst. We lost 4-0 at
Jeez.
Selhurst last
Yeah.
season, so
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe you're right. Yeah. Oh
Yeah. It's
yes,
horrible stuff.
didn't we lose 1-0 at Old Trafford to them last season? Yeah, I remember
Mhm.
that very
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. We lost. Yeah, at Old Trafford. It's a horrible record. I don't really know what to say. It's just rinse and repeat, is it? Really. Like even last week, if we're being honest, we were fortunate to beat Fulham. Um, yeah, a little bit of a respite with Europe, and it's back to square one. Um, I think Amarim is definitely using the Premier League to test out things. I think we've seen that in the fact that Cobby was in the false nine, and I think he was getting a bit ahead of himself there. I know a lot of fans were getting a bit excited and giddy because he played in the 10, for a little bit against Steaua Bucharest, but it's a totally different level of opposition. And you can't just do that in the Premier League and just throw people in at the deep end in positions they're not used to. And you could see it as well. He was uncomfortable. For about 15 minutes, he was all right. And then the rest, it was, yeah, it's dreadful, wasn't it? He was largely out of the game.
He came close with a deflected effort very early in the game that hit the
Hmm.
post, but that was his last meaningful contribution. Uh, yeah, the manager seemed to indicate on Thursday evening after the game that Menu was going to play as a 10 from now on. That's what I took from what he said, because he felt as if he was struggling with the defensive responsibilities.
Yeah,
But then he plays him as a false nine in the next game, and that was just a
yeah.
disastrous decision. Uh,
Yeah, to be fair, with the 10 talk, I mean, I know we've discussed it on here before, where we've not been happy with the balance in midfield when it's him and Ugarte. So that part of it I understand. But yeah, like you say, even a 10 is a completely different role for him and one that will take adjustment. You can't just go from that one game and then throw him in at the deep end with the false nine in another.
no, whenever the team news dropped and there was no recognised striker, he was not the man I was thinking that was going to play as the false nine. I was thinking it was going
Hmm.
to be Bruno or Ahmad. I just didn't see that coming, to
Yeah.
be honest. I don't think he's the right person for that role anyway. I mean, he's not very tall, he's not very quick, and yeah, I just you don't see him running the channels or anything like that. I just don't think that he's suited to a false nine role. I don't know where that came from. It was just, as you said, it was an experiment and it didn't come off.
Yeah, and we just didn't adjust in time either. With the first goal we conceded, I do think it was, there was an element of luck on it. It was unfortunate, come off the bar, and then obviously Mateta's the first to it. If I'm being overly critical, I would say that that ball should have been cut out from coming in the first place. Um, I'm not gonna blame Maguire too much for that one. I know a lot of people were looking at that thinking, "Oh, he should have covered his man," but you're not really expecting it to just come off the bar and bounce the way it did. So it's a little bit harsh. But yeah, he didn't cover himself in glory, to be fair. Yeah, it's one of his poorer days.
Yeah, I think I blame more Maguire for the second goal because
Hmm.
he was as Palace were coming forward, the ball was played out to the right, and then Maguire was dragged out to the right, and then when they got in behind, Maguire was absolutely nowhere near Matata, and it was too late by then. And he was just there at the back post to top it home, and Maguire was about 10 yards away from him. He should have been keeping an eye on his man and not the ball, Maguire, earlier
Absolutely.
in the build up to that attack. But yeah, I think I blame Nana more for the goal
Mm,
because what is he doing? He should be easily tipping that over the bar. He doesn't get anywhere near it, and then it comes down off the bar, and obviously Matata's the quickest to react. See, though, as I was saying, those are such strikers' goals. You know, a rebound and a tap in, and we would give anything for those type of goals right now, because
absolutely. And then the fact that two strikers came on and it made bugger all difference.
yeah, I got to be honest, I was not even excited in the slightest by seeing them two getting their tracksuits off.
Hmm.
It
Yeah,
didn't.
to be honest, I mean, my head was down as soon as we went behind because you know what happens when we go behind, right? You we go into most games these days wondering where the goal's going to come from, and then to lament it all, the injury to Martinez, and it's ACL as well, isn't it? So he's going to be out for ages.
Oh, it just feels like deja vu, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's horrible seeing him in tears and that, but obviously, a freak accident, you could say. But again, for me, it's kind of concerning when it's the third season in a row where he won't complete a full season. You know?
and he was just getting into form as well.
Yeah, yeah, deja vu.
Probably going to be our no. Ahmad got the January Player of the Month, but I thought Martinez was certainly a big contender for that because he'd
Hmm.
gotten two very important goals and he'd been getting assists. So even there's another source of goals and assists is gone now, and there wasn't many. And so this is going
It's
to affect
quite
us at
quite a depressing state of affairs as well. That he was probably one of our most potent threats going forward.
yeah with his breaking the lines, passes, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and the
He
odd strike,
yeah. So it's yeah, that's a big blow at both ends of the pitch, really.
definitely.
Um, but we are stacked in the centre half area, I suppose. But nobody quite has the qualities that he has. Like we still, Lenny Yarrow will probably see his game time
I
increase
wouldn't
a lot
say
now.
we're stacked. I mean, we have bodies.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't mean
yeah,
stacked in terms of quality. It's
yeah,
not what
yeah.
I
The
meant at
quality,
all.
yeah, yeah. It's a big drop off, isn't it? I mean, listen, uh, Dorgu signed, and then miraculously Luke Shaw comes back from injury. So we'll have to see how long that lasts for. But he would be the one you'd think that would come in at left centre back. But
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
it's been out for so long. You'd have to see how long it takes for him to get up to max speed.
He'll play 15 minutes and he'll be injured for another 6 months again. So
Mm,
no, never in a million years am I getting excited about that.
yeah,
Um, but in his brief spell of being fit under Amorim, Luke Shaw, that's exactly where he played, was a left
hmm,
centre back. So I imagine that's where he'll be used because he's almost like the most like replacement for Martinez at
yep.
left centre back, really, isn't he? So let's see how long it lasts. But yeah, we have potentially Shaw. We have Maguire, Lenny Yarrow,
And
Delict.
the forgotten man Lindelof,
Oh, yeah, I was getting to it.
who I was hoping, like, this window would probably see an end to that, but we haven't. So, and I'm sure we'll get into the transfer stuff at the
Yeah,
end, or the lack thereof. So I'm pretty sure he's going to stay. So, he's going to have to come into it at some point.
Johnny Evans, of course, is still there as
Hmm.
well, and Aidan Heaven is now a Manchester United centre half, signed from Arsenal.
Poor
Uh,
kid has walked into hell.
yeah, I was just going to say the puns right themselves, and you're straight into it. Uh, yeah, but yeah, nobody maybe apart from Shaw has Martinez's qualities, but he's also injury prone. Uh, but I think Martinez, it isn't like constant muscular injuries. These are
Yeah,
like really
it's
unlucky
different
injuries.
ones. Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, like from the outside looking in, you'd think, oh, is he injury prone? But obviously, this one in isolation, it's very unlucky, isn't it?
Yeah, there was the metatarsal, then the correctional surgery on the metatarsal. Then it was
Hmm.
a knee injury almost a year ago to the day, and then another knee injury. So they just seem to be, they seem to, like they're not. It's just innocuous. It looks innocuous, and then it
Hmm.
turns out to be very serious. He just seems to twist his leg in
Yeah,
such a way that it pops his ACL, and it's just it could happen to anybody. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. It's not as
yeah.
if he's like Michael Owen, where he keeps pulling his hamstring every
Nah,
few months.
definitely. It's not a reoccurring injury of the same sort, but it is a concern for me though that he can't finish one singular, season fully, and it's the third consecutive one now. So I think it's something they definitely have to look at in the summer. I saw us getting a centre back in anyway. Um, it would make sense if it was a left-sided centre back now, and then Martinez can become like the rotation option.
Yeah, probably, but it's going to be hard to get someone of that quality, I would say.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Maybe Ignacio, one of Ruben's old boys, because he plays on that side.
mm, like I think I've said this already. I don't want to get into a situation where we're signing half the Sporting Lisbon team. I don't think that's the right thing to do. And probably inevitably we're going to sign one or two of them.
Yeah.
Very much looks like the right-sided 17-year-old is going to be coming in the summer.
Mm,
By the sounds of things.
yeah.
Quinta, is
Quenda.
it?
Yeah,
Quinta,
yeah.
yeah.
Quenda.
But I don't want to end up with half the Portuguese league. I don't think that's
Mm,
we've seen enough of that at Old Trafford with
yeah.
the whole Dutch thing, which hasn't really worked out. So I believe just in the last few minutes, it looks like Malacia is going to secure a loan move to another club, which I think is the right thing to do, and then we move him on permanently in the summer.
Mm,
I think PSV Eindhoven looks like his destination.
okay. At
I
this
know.
moment in time, I don't even know if that makes sense, because if we get one injury to any of the fullbacks, that's again an area where we're light.
Yeah, I tell you what, Patrick Dorgu is going to have to be a brilliant defender, a brilliant midfielder, and a brilliant goal scorer all at once. No pressure.
Yeah, listen, he's 20 years old. He's been moved about all over the place as well. If you look at his last 50 games, he's played in so many different positions. So it's obviously going to be a learning curve when he comes in. I'm not expecting him to go straight into the lineup. I'm sure he'll be a rotation option with Dallo. So yeah, so even more pressure on the young man with Malacia leaving as well. Because shout out
Well,
to Malacia actually, like despite all the criticism, whatever little cameo he's had, he's looked all right most of the
uh, I just think he's a backup fullback, and
time.
that's his level. I don't think he's
Yeah.
anything more than that. I don't think that he was good enough to come in and be United starting left back. He's a bit of a Alexander Butner, I would say, is how I would describe him.
Absolutely. It's one of those, like, I've got nothing against him moving on. I think he does need first team football. Like, just looking at our squad and the fact that we're down to the bare bones, tactically, I would have opted to wait till the summer before moving him on. But yeah, I hope he goes and, gets back to some level of form.
Yeah, it seems as if United want to try and balance the books in any way they can, and he
Hmm.
offers them an opportunity because, let's face it, we're not going to sell Casemiro. We just cannot move him on at all. Those wages are astronomical, and the
Yep.
Saudi Pro League don't seem to be that keen on him,
No, no.
which United would have hoped for, and it just hasn't worked
Yeah,
out at all.
there was slight rumors of a loan move to Roma, but that seems to have died as well. I don't think anybody wants to touch those wages, to be fair.
No, I'm hoping maybe Inter Miami will come in for him this year at some point. That might be helpful.
Maybe.
Because I'm trying to think of clubs that might want
Yeah.
them that can afford those kind of wages. You know.
Yeah. 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 It would
Um,
have to be Saudi or MLS or something. Yeah. I can't. or he would
Yeah,
have to take a cut and go to Italy or somewhere if he still wants to play at a reasonable level.
and at this point, it's not even fair on him for him to sit
No.
there, not play any football, and just be humiliated for someone who's won so
Yeah,
much in his career.
absolutely not. I'll tell you what, I've had another dreadful thought as well earlier today, Carl. With the ongoing centre back crisis, they might look at him as a makeshift centre back in a three, just to give him game time, if nothing else, because they won't like the criticism of we've got 300 plus grand on the bench.
Well, wasn't him playing at centre half one of the reasons why we lost 4-0 to Palace at the end of last
Uh
season?
huh.
So I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think we'd have to go through quite a few injured centre backs before we land
Yeah.
on Casemiro.
But yeah, don't
Um,
rule that out though, because if if he stays, listen, they will find a way to try and utilize him just to give him
boy,
minutes.
boy, he would have. I bet you he wished that Ruud van Nistelrooy stayed
Yeah.
on at the end of the
Hmm.
season because he started every game under Van
Yeah.
Nistelrooy. Apparently, they get on very well because they both speak Spanish. And
Yeah.
as soon as Van Nistelrooy left,
Hmm.
he had a couple of bad performances at the start of the Ruben era, and then
Yeah.
he's not even coming on as a sub anymore. Toby Collier's ahead of him in the pecking order
Yeah,
now.
yeah, Collier's there, and obviously, looking to the future, you can see what they're trying to do, right? We're going down that project youth kind of build. So yeah, I definitely see him giving Collier all the opportunities ahead of Cass.
Yeah, I don't mind the project youth to a certain extent, but I think at some point we have to bring in some ready-made players. Uh, we can't just keep signing potential. We need someone who can deliver right away for us
It depends
because
entirely on what their goals are. Because the way I'm looking at it now, I think these lot are they're kind of the way they're operating, Carl. It reminds me of what administrators do. You know what auditors do when a club goes into administration, when they go in and just tear everything down to the bare bones. So yeah, like even look at the outgoings. We've got rid of the highest wages. Anthony's gone, Rashi's gone. Yet no doubt Casemiro is the next they've got in mind. And then they'll probably look at Mason Mount and that situation because he's on quite high wages and he's not justifying it at the moment because he's injured half the time. But yeah, and look at the profile of players that we're linked to as well. Not that we're signing any of them, but even Matthias Tell, which was the talk of the town this past week, 19 years old, largely unproven at this level. It's just potential, isn't it? So those are the kind of signings we're looking at.
you just can't have an entire Laban worth of 19-year-olds. You just nonsense. You have to have. We always go back to 1995, the class of '92 coming in, but the spine of the team was all experience.
Oh, absolutely. But then, it's up to them to decide what the goals are going forward. At this moment, I'm at a loss because it just seems like we're going from bad to worse. And obviously, this season, the league for me is a write-off anyway. There's nothing really we can do in the league because this manager refuses to change up his system, and we don't have the tools that implement his system. But we're going to stay with it. So it is what it is.
The way he sets up the team seems to be enough to get results away from home, but at Old Trafford, it's been a
Mm,
mitigated disaster,
hmm.
and that pattern and trend has just continued this week.
Yeah.
The
Do
one
you think
positive,
we should start playing in our away kit at Old Trafford?
yeah, yeah, not just that, but I would rather we just play all our home games away instead. Like for example, we've got home games coming up in February against
We should. What are you
Ipswich.
saying? We should lease out the Millennium Stadium.
Yeah, do you see this? All these home games coming up in
Hmm.
February and March, April. Let's just play them as away games. I'm happy enough for that.
Ah,
Or even a neutral ground. Yeah, just anything but Old Trafford really at the moment.
yeah,
Because we were
yeah.
even joking yesterday that we should have went to the Fulham game in Craven Cottage the week before.
Hmm.
Would have a better chance of seeing a victory. Because you just know what you're going to get at Old Trafford. It's just
Exactly, and some
pathetic.
big games coming up as well with teams that are in and around us in the league. So yeah, big couple of weeks ahead. Got Tottenham as well actually. So
That's
the
the next league game.
yeah, yeah. So the whole Mateus Tilscher, shit show that's happened today, that's gonna come to light as well, and no doubt the media attention is all gonna be around Tell if he turns up for Spurs. So we've got that to look forward to, followed by the return of David Moyes at Everton, and then it's Ipswich.
Well, I'm not worried about the Spurs game because it's an away game, so I think we'll get a result in that, and it's
Mm,
Spurs. Spurs are Spursy. Uh, I know they won against Brentford, but generally they lose most weeks. They even lost to Leicester.
Yeah.
So I would, and I thought even though we conceded silly goals and we lost 4-3 in the cup game at Tottenham, I
Hmm.
thought we played pretty well that night, from an attacking point of view. So
Hmm.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if United won that game, or at least avoided defeat. Yeah, we want to keep Spurs behind us in the table. We don't want us going down any further because Palace leapfrogged us by winning that game. I see.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, yeah, they're ahead of us.
Mm. Yeah, and Mateus Telt, someone I know he's young, but someone who hasn't scored a goal this season. I'm not exactly crying about not signing him in January because
Yeah,
we
I've heard a lot of hoo-ha today, Carl, on the timeline. I think people are just fed up and a bit annoyed that there's outgoings and no one's coming in. I think that's really what it is, more than anything.
and I'm going to break the trend and give Ineos somewhat of a compliment here, which I
Hmm.
don't like doing, is that they're not going to make any panic buys. They're
Yeah,
only going to bring people in who are going to be useful to us in the long term. And
absolutely, and that's a good thing. And I'll tell you what, I'll add this as well. So apparently, Spurs, we know they're flush with cash because they already put in an offer of like 60 million euros, 50 million pounds, which the club actually accepted, but the player himself didn't want to move there permanently, right? I think what's happened is they've turned up with a loan fee that we were not prepared to match, and they said they'll also cover all of his wages and all the rest of it, and we just weren't prepared to make that level of investment right now. And I don't see a problem with that. Obviously, on paper, it looks silly because we've, got outgoings and no one coming in. But this isn't the end of the world. And I'll tell you what, we now get to see how this young man takes to the league. And if he does well there, make no mistakes, he'll be available in the summer. And if we sort everything out that we need to sort out, I'm pretty sure we'll be there for the race if it turns out that he turns into a good player.
yeah, because I think it's United that he wants to play for. Because of course, it was only
Yeah.
3 days ago that he turned Spurs down when they were looking to sign him
Exactly. I
permanently.
think I think what it is, Carl, with time running out, he couldn't risk a move to United not materializing and then him sitting on the bench for the rest of the season, right? So the closer it got to deadline, he figured, you know what? What the hell? I'm not going to sign there permanently, but I need to get out of here so I can get some game time. So I think that's what's on his mind. Um,
But it's going to be an awkward question for him
yeah,
when the media ask him, "You rejected Spurs like 4 days ago. Why all of
yeah.
a sudden have you changed your mind?" Um, but yeah, because it's a very odd situation where Spurs offered 60 million for him.
Yeah.
Um, he didn't. Bayern accepted the offer, but he didn't
Hmm.
want to go to Spurs. He wanted to hold out for United. They were only offering to take him on loan, and then they end up
Yep.
loaning him to Spurs anyway. When the United pulled out, it's just bizarre situation really. But like you say, it's probably down to the fact that he wants to play some football because he's not getting any game time at Bayern.
Yeah,
See,
definitely. So I'm sure they would have made some, promises on game
but
time and all of
if
that.
he's just having a straight loan at Tottenham, why aren't
Yeah.
United back in for him again then and saying, well, if you're offering Tottenham that, why can't we have it? I don't
Again,
know.
I think the loan fee is the stumbling block. I think they offer the loan fee, but I don't think we want to do that.
Right, okay, fair enough.
So I think
And
they think, yeah, I think, yeah, I can't clarify this. So I did see a little thing earlier. I think it was a £5 million loan fee, with all of his wages covered as well. And I don't think
mm,
United wanted to do that.
that's a lot for a loan, like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a half a season loan as well, remember? And we're into February now, so you're really paying for what, like 2, 3 months?
Yeah, 4 months of football, really. Uh, d- d- things are so bad in this Premier League season for United
Yeah.
that I look to see when the season ends, uh,
Hmm.
and it's May 25th. It's a late one this year, which I'm disappointed about. Whenever there's a tournament, it ends in early May, which is what I was hoping
Listen,
for, but there's no tournament,
I
so
missed, yeah, listen, I missed the days when I used to look at May thinking, oh, yep, this could be a potential cup final.
yeah. Well, I hope our last game of the season is in
Yeah.
Bilbao.
Hmm.
That's what we need. But
That is what
uh,
we need.
but I have to say, I wanted the league season to earn a whole lot, to end a whole lot earlier because
Mm.
May 25th is too long, given what we put up with so far.
Hmm.
Um, and it's another home game on last this season too. Ugh. But
I think
just
is
don't,
it is it Villa? Is it?
it's Villa, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So Rashford won't be able to play in the last game of the season.
Yeah,
Um,
provided they're competent and they've put in the clause, because I know that's not a guarantee, because sometimes clubs make that mistake.
Imagine the
Because I
reception he would get if he does play in that
yeah
game.
yeah 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 yeah. Well, I hope they were smart enough to put in the clause, because yeah, it's not a given. Because I remember Barcelona did that famously with Philip Coutinho, where they didn't insert a clause where he couldn't play against the parent club, and then he, of course, ended up
Mhm. I remember
scoring a
that.
brace in an absolute demolition at the new camp.
One of the oddest situations I've encountered in
Yeah, yeah,
in
he went on to win the Champions League with them as well.
yeah.
Ah,
But so Rashford, Villa will be covering at least 70% of his wages, but apparently if he does really well, they'll actually cover 90% of his wages. So it depends on
oh
him.
wow, okay,
It depends on him activating clauses with performances.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I hear there's also a buy option for 40 million.
yeah, yeah. I hope that happens. But the way he's talking is that he's only
Yeah.
going to be there on a temporary
hmm
basis. I what I'm thinking is he's hoping that Barcelona will come in for him in the summer. That's the
Listen,
way.
I mean, the stage is set for him, right? I think he's actually a very good landing spot. He somehow landed on his feet. They've even got the added bonus of Champions League football they can offer him. So it's all there for him. It's just down to him now, really, to sort his act out and put in the effort in the training ground and get to work. Um, our best
Mm.
hope is that this is to him what West Ham was to Jesse Lingard.
Somebody was saying on Twitter yesterday that so rather than run around in training for the club that he says he loves, he'd prefer to go to Birmingham and play for Aston Villa. I
I
don't
mean,
understand that.
listen, once the players, put out that statement saying that he's ready for a new challenge, the writing was on the wall for me. I think at that point there's no coming back really, and he just needed a getaway. Now I would have preferred if it was to a foreign club, but as things transpired, it's Villa. It is what it is.
Yeah, Barcelona are definitely interested, but as you know, their financial
Yeah.
situation is a total mess.
Oh, it's dire. And also, it didn't make sense for me, that one, because if he's going in these circumstances, you want him to actually like play. So, you don't want him to just go and sit on a bench. And at Barcelona, I mean, he wouldn't have been starting there. Rafinha's having the season of his life. You got
But
the young
he,
protege Yamal on the other wing. And Robert
he,
Lewandowski is the top goal scorer in La Liga and in Europe, I think, in the Champions League.
yeah, and do you know what? He's going to end up, whether it's Aston Villa or Barcelona, he's going to end up playing as a striker, which is what he doesn't like doing.
Mm,
Uh, he- like Ollie Watkins is injured, so that's where he's going to go. And
yeah.
at Barcelona, he'd probably be either replacing Lewandowski when he goes, because he's 35 now, or else he's going to be back up to him, I think, or back up to one of the Rafinha or Yamal, because
He would have
as I
just
said,
been
yeah,
cover over there. He would have been covering all the others. Whereas here, he would actually
so
get first team football.
yeah, he says he doesn't like playing as a striker, but let me tell you, that's what he's going to be doing in Aston Villa, and
We'll see, because they got
the,
Donnell Mallon in as well. So yeah, let's see.
he's not going to
It, it,
he's not taking Ramsey's place, not a chance,
yeah, it
not a
would be
chance in hell.
interesting. It would be interesting if they switch him out to the left, because I don't think Morgan Rogers changes position. He stays in that 10. I think he's pretty solidified. Oh, and they got Asensio in now as well. So that'll
Yeah,
probably be the right hand side.
they're not going to move the
hmm
most informed player. They're not going to move him out of position to cater Rashford. I shouldn't think so anyway. But yeah,
Yeah.
sure, it's not our concern. We're just kind of chatting about it. Really, we're not really that bothered, to be
Yeah,
honest.
basically,
But
I don't really care how they use him, to be honest. I just hope he does well. Yeah, I heard Anthony did well in his debut for Betis.
you say that, but apparently he got player of the match. But
Mm.
somebody created a compilation of all these awful moments he had
Of,
in the
of
game.
all the awful moment, yeah. But this is the thing, though, isn't it? This is why we must go back and at least watch the proper highlights, because it's very easy to edit and clip things. Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw that as well, and that I was like, oh yeah, this is the Anthony I remember. But yeah, no, good for him if he, good on him if he's done well.
he he dribbled the ball out of play, and then he had another one of those
Yeah.
awful shots where he cuts in his left foot and it goes miles over the
Mm.
bar. That was the only thing that I knew. But and I thought maybe in a game where his team had scored goals that he might have
Mm.
got an assist, but he didn't even get that. So I'm
Mm.
wondering why he was player of the match. But see, the media and fans online like to do this shit where on United where like they make fun of the player while he's at United and say
Yeah.
he's shit. Then when he goes
And then
somewhere
hype
else,
them up when they leave. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we've seen it with Sancho already, haven't we? Like from
yeah,
watching the league, it's been inconsistent and he's been in and out of the team and whatnot. But if you just listen to people on the timeline, you'd think, oh, Sancho's been amazing since he's been to Chelsea.
yeah, bollocks. Because
Yeah.
do you know what? Jadon Sancho has the same amount of Premier League goals this season as Lissandro Martinez.
Mm.
So I don't know what they're talking about. It's only he's when he scored that goal at Tottenham, which was a good goal,
Hmm.
but that's a long time ago now. He hasn't scored since, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's got the odd assist for Cole Palmer as well. But I mean, it's quite a few weeks now since he's got a goal or assist.
Hmm.
So that's the Sancho that we all know and love, where he has a wee purple patch, and then you don't see him for weeks. So I'm not that bothered about that. I'm just hoping that it activates the 25 million pound clause and we get that money for him. I hope he does
It's an
enough.
obligation. No.
Yeah, I think it's an obligation for at least 20, but I think
Right.
25 million if he performs well. So
Right.
I'm not.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what
Yeah.
will be enough to trigger that. Five
Hmm.
goals, five assists. I don't know, but yeah,
Mm.
I just hope that we get as much money for him as possible because we're already taking a massive hit on him. Um,
Definitely. But I'll tell you what, listen, I'm seeing the likes of John Duran move to Saudi for crazy money. Where are all the offers for our players? Listen, we can, work something out. We'll give you a discount. Come take them. Come
mhm.
buy Casemiro. We'll throw Shaw in for free.
Yeah, they're just
Like
trying.
I don't even want ridiculous money. Just offer us a fair price, please.
I think Casemiro's getting to the point where we will be willing to let him go for free just to get his wages off the books.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I think he's one of those. You might just go back to Brazil or something.
Yeah,
If we offer him a mutual termination or just some kind of severance package, I think he would just go back to Brazil and wind down.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um, so it was another absolutely dire performance at home. I knew it was a risk going to the
Hmm.
game, but I had a little bit of hope because we were in decent with 3 wins in a row going into the match. But I
Yeah.
suppose we were due a defeat. Unfortunately, it came when I was there. Um, I thought United's second half performance against Steaua Bucharest was
Hmm.
pretty good, albeit
Hmm.
it is against a pretty weak opponent. But
Yeah.
he played a bit of an experimental team in the first half of that game as well. Didn't work out. Then he
Yep.
brought on Garnacho and Ahmad at half time, and Manny was playing as a 10, and it just worked a treat. United, it was just wave after wave of attack from United in Bucharest, and probably should have won more than 2-0. Um, but there's more of the same. Once you go back to playing at home, team set up, numbers behind the ball, we just cannot break them down. And at the end, they will inevitably score on the counter attack, and or
Hmm.
from a set piece, and that's what happened yesterday. But in Europe we're doing pretty well. But now we're not. We're going to be losing Martinez for the rest of the season. So I know we've negotiated the league phase pretty handily, finishing third, and only needed to finish in the top eight. In the top eight, we got the 3 draws under Ten Hag, but it's 5 wins out of 5 under Amorim in Europe. Or not, well, Ruud van Nistelrooy I think was responsible for at least one of
Yep.
them. Uh,
Undefeated in Europe, and in the end, I think we're only a point off the top, weren't we? So yeah, it's a nice little
yeah,
turnaround. There.
the only undefeated team in the Europa League. But
Yeah.
as I've said online, I think we are. These games are going to get tougher. Okay, we might get Midtjylland in the next round. Let's
Yeah.
see. Hopefully it's not Galatasaray or Real Sociedad because that would be more
Hmm.
difficult. Happy for Midtjylland or AZ Alkmaar to be the draw. But as the tournament progresses, we're going to have to play Lazio. We're going to have to play Athletic Bilbao.
Yep.
Do we have enough up front to get past these teams? And bear in mind, no Martinez either. What do you think?
Well, the quick answer is no. But no, I'm hoping that Europe gives us that bit of relief this season, because I think the Premier League, that is the experimental ground from now till the end of the season. So we might see some chop and changes there where he's trying things out. It might not work. Against Palace, I actually thought we were doing all right whilst it remained 0-0. And then once we went down, our heads dropped. And also, I don't think he adjusted in time with the changes and whatnot that needed to be made. And obviously, the experiment failed as well overall. Um, but yeah, in Europe, I'm hopeful. Like on paper, at the very least, we should be amongst the favourites. Um, looking to get to at least a semi-final, I'd say. But yeah, where the goals are going to come from, your guess is as good as mine, mate. I just, it's one of those.
And unfortunately, semi-final is not going to be good enough because we
Yeah,
need to win this tournament to get into the Europe.
absolutely, yeah. Well, and just pride, like whatever competition you're in, like, you want to win it, right?
We are not going to finish in the top half of the Premier League the way things are going. So
Nope.
that's no European football unless you win the Europa League. So it's getting
Yeah.
more and more important with
Yep.
every passing week. So
Absolutely.
he is going to put all the eggs in that basket, I think, like Mourinho
hmm
did 7 years
hmm
ago.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Obviously, again, I don't think relegation is a realistic worry. There's clearly three teams that are worse off than everyone else in the league. So we don't have to
Yeah,
worry too much about that.
it's beginning to look like the promoted teams are going to go down again, like last season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, a huge win for Southampton as well. I I think they're down anyway, but they're on a quest to not be the lowest totaling team to get relegated. I think Derby County hold the record of the lowest point total with 11, and Southampton are on 9 now after that victory.
Surprise victory against Ipswich, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, and having watched that game as well, it was a very jammy goal for the win.
yeah, we are appalling to watch in the league. So I'm
Yeah,
only
it's
looking forward
atrocious.
to cup games now. And
My only concern, really, Kyle, is if anything happens to Diallo, because
oh
he is our one bright spark. Just going forward, like I just feel like things can happen when he's on the attack, and yeah, if anything happens to him, I really would start to worry.
yeah, because we're very light in attack now,
Yeah,
w-
yeah,
with Rashford and Anthony going out and nobody coming in.
hmm
Uh, yeah, Diallo created that opportunity for Bruno yesterday. He went for the corner, but Dean Henderson got a hand to it, kept it out. Ugarte came close as well from a set
hmm
piece, and Henderson saved it. You know, I think a few fans said it online. I was thinking it myself. Henderson's a better goalkeeper than Onana, and we let him go as well.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
and this is an age-old story, in it. Our old goalkeeper's coming back and just putting on a masterclass against us.
no, and yeah,
Yeah, so it's another one of those. He had a brilliant game, unfortunately for us.
um, yeah, Onana's just not going to do for me. At which
No.
point do you think that he's going to install Bayindir as the number one
Mm.
goalkeeper this season, if at all? What will it
Oof,
take?
oof. I'm not sure actually, because I actually thought that in the last 2 weeks or so that we would see it. I thought we would see a bit more of it. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if it happens before the end of the season.
I, I, t-
Um,
I tell you what, I think
yeah,
he's definitely going to play every single FA Cup and
yeah,
Europa League game now. I think, and I think that
yeah.
might indicate that he is the number one goalkeeper because those are the main
hmm
tournaments. We just
And funny enough, he's got the number one on his back as well, hasn't he? Because Anana insisted on the 24.
do you remember when under Solskjaer when the Europa League became the
hmm
priority? And
Yeah,
we got to the final loss in penalties, of course.
yeah.
Um,
We really should have won that one.
yeah, De Gea started the play in the
Yeah,
Europa League, and Henderson got the league games because the
yeah.
Europa League became the priority.
hmm
So yeah, by end years already the Europa League goalkeeper, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's
we've
going
seen
to
it both ways, haven't we? Under two different managers. Under Jose, Dave was the man in the league, but yeah, Romero took over duties in the Europa.
let's give the man his dues. Romero was the best number two of all time. Uh,
He's certainly up there. He was
yeah,
yeah, very good, very good. I mean, listen, I'll tell you what, if you if we had him now, he might be number one.
almost certainly. What is he, 40 now? He'd still be number
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. I think he's still playing. You know.
Yeah, it's probably in South America, I would
Yeah,
presume.
yeah,
Yeah, when he was our cup goalkeeper, he was Argentina's number one. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then
until
Martinez came along.
yeah, the notorious Emi Martinez.
Hmm.
So Anthony and Rashford are gone. Malacia is on the verge of leaving. His loan move to Benfica broke down, but now he's going to go to PSV. It
Yeah,
seems. So we brought in Dorgu and a very very young raw centre back who's played in
yeah.
one League Cup game for Arsenal. Uh, as we're struggling so badly up front, at which point do we now we try and Manu as number 9? That's how desperate he is now.
Mm.
What about Tito Obi Martin? When are we going to give him a go?
Ah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a run out before the end of the season. The way things are going.
Because I remember, I can't remember who said it, that he was supposed to be the third choice striker. I don't know if that's true or not,
Mm.
but I would like to see that being the case, especially with Ethan Wheatley's now going on loan to
Hmm.
Warsaw. So it's opening up for him if the manager wants to throw him in. So our next game is in the cup against Leicester at home.
Yeah,
Y- I know we're awful at home, but you like to think we could beat Leicester the way they're going,
yeah, yeah.
and we already have the season. I mean, this season, I think we've already scored about 8 goals against Leicester.
Hmm.
So hopefully we can continue that trend. And do you think Tito Obi Martin could at least be on the bench against Leicester in the cup?
I'd be very surprised if he is. I think it's a bit soon for that still. And like you say, it's Leicester, and it's one of the few teams we've actually been scoring against no problem. I think they might use it as an opportunity to try and see if one of our front two can get their mojo back, be it Rasmus
Well,
or Xerxes.
well, somebody needs to tell Rasmus that it's February, because if you
Yeah.
remember, in February 2024, he was the Premier
Mm,
League Player of the Month
mm,
because he
yeah.
scored
So
all those goals. So
yeah, and then he was on. Yeah, he was on a good bit of form, wasn't he? And then he picked up an injury and threw him off. Yeah.
against Fulham, and then we lost that game.
Yeah, but yeah, of late, I just think he's completely devout of confidence. He looks like he's fighting with the ball whenever I see him. Uh,
Yeah, Xerxes was terrible yesterday as well.
yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah,
and yeah, I
Xer-
stand by my assessment of Xerxes. He reminds me there's elements of Fellaini I see in his game.
yeah. Sometimes, from a technical point of view, he looks
Yeah.
good. And then other times he just plays these really sloppy balls,
Hmm.
and he's just very, very inconsistent, even in the same game. But
Very much so.
remember when he absolutely destroyed William Saliba? That's what I want to see in every game, but he doesn't produce it. He
Yeah.
goes from the sublime to the ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, I have to mention Diogo Dallo yesterday. Another very poor game as
Mm.
the left wing back, and I know people say that he's played a position, but I seen him playing a right wing back recently in a game. He got an opportunity. He switched sides for a change, and he wasn't much better. But some of the things that he does are just mind boggling. People talk about the him having a low football IQ. I know exactly what they mean when they say that.
Hmm.
I couldn't believe this yesterday, and I was perfectly positioned to view it. He took a throw in and he threw it down the line and was straight out of play for another throw to Crystal Palace on the same side. You know, I've never seen that before in my life in professional football. And he took a throw in, he threw it out of play again on the same side. I
Ah.
just and he just does these brainless
Hmm.
things that you wouldn't expect someone at that level to do. It always gets caught in possession, and just it just beggars belief sometimes. And if but for some reason on the continent, there's clubs who like him, and
Yeah.
in the summer, if we're offered 25, 30 million for him, I'd snap their hands off for it.
Hmm.
Mm,
Definitely. Yeah, the thing is, around the continent, you got a bit more time and space on the ball. It's not as intense as the Premier League. You don't get closed down as much. Yeah, so I think in other areas he can, thrive a bit more than he's doing in the league for us.
yeah, he's really struggling at the moment. And left wing,
Yeah.
left wing back or right wing. Tell you, wing back
Uh,
full stop. It's just not his position. He's not.
for me, that's a specialist area as well. So you need ones that are out and out, just comfortable in that position. And then we've got a manager as well, who apparently I've been told many a times that he likes to play wingers in those positions. So again, that's we'll have to see how that pans out.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me next season if we've Dorgu at left wing back and
Mm.
Quinta at right wing back. He's more of a winger, so
Again, see, it just sounds very football managerish, doesn't it? Just, you got a 20-year-old Dorgu, left wing back Quinde, who's also a child coming in, just being thrown in at the deep
this,
end.
this wouldn't be my choice, but this is what Ineos are doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to be realistic. I'm not going to say we're going to have Roberto
Yeah.
Carlos a left wing back
No,
and
no, no,
Tafu.
absolutely. I hear what you're saying. For me, like even with this Dorgu kid, I'm not expecting anything. I'll be honest with you. I am not holding my breath. I'm not expecting him to just come in and just, immediately take over Dallow's spot. And even if he does come in, I'm sure he's going to make plenty of mistakes.
There's no point in me sitting here saying that we're going to have Trent at right wing back and we're going to have Alfonso Davis at left wing back.
Yeah, Hakimi coming in,
Mm.
Theo Hernandez. Yeah, that would be nice. Though.
But the thing is, when you buy potential, is you know some of them will work out and some of them won't.
Yeah, the thing for me is getting that balance right. Like for me, potential would have been like a Kirkes, who
Mm, yeah,
who's already adapted to the league, and obviously, there's a lot of frailties to his game. He's only 21, but there's room for growth. But you've already seen a body of work of what he can do in the league. So that would have been, somebody that I looked at, opposed to a Dorgu who's even further behind and has to move to a new country and adapt. And it's a big change.
yeah. United just will not play. Starting to get the impression that United just do not want to pay the fees to
Yeah.
buy players from other Premier League clubs.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
they're trying to rebuild a squad, and if they start buying players from other Premier League clubs, they're only going to be able to buy 3 players in one summer transfer window. So they're trying to
Yeah.
look into Europe for cheaper deals
Mhm.
and trying to buy young talent.
Yeah, but this is the
Because
thing, though. I can understand if you got Dorgu for like 10 million euros, I'd be on board with you. But we still paid a significant fee for him for his age. You know. So then
yeah,
you think, would you not just add another 10 million on top of that 10, 15 to get someone who's a bit better and already used to the league?
but I think Bournemouth are looking 60 million for Kirkhouse.
Jesus, that's insane. Surely they can't in the summer hold out for 60 million. But I say that, but yeah, transfer fees have gone crazy, haven't they? I mean, Chelsea
Yeah,
paid 60 odd million for Cucurella.
there's the United tax,
Mm.
simply because everybody knows we're desperate. So
I guess that's something that they would look to get rid of. They wanted to get rid of that tag, I feel. I think even in the Matthias Tell thing, like the fact that they didn't want to pay the loan fee, I think suggests that, they don't want to be bullied in the market anymore. And it has to be there on their own terms. Also because the kind of cost cutting they're doing as well is insane.
yeah, the Ed Woodward tax, they need to get rid of that.
Mm. Hmm.
But that's fine. But we need to be signing players that are going to come in and make a difference right away. We just can't have it. The United first team just cannot be a FA Youth Cup 11. We need.
At the moment, that's how it's looking in terms of what they're looking at.
It's
But only time will
we
tell,
need a bit of
unfortunately.
we need a balance.
We do
We just
indeed.
cannot
But
have.
the trouble is, like, even the guys that have gone out, it's only on loan technically. So, we have to revisit this in the summer and make sure we get rid of them permanently before we can expect anything.
Well, Samuel Luckhurst has just said that United had prioritised their summer budget by
Mm.
deciding against an attacking addition in the winter, paving the way for a major striker signing in the close season. Now that will excite fans at least. Um, yeah,
It will
the
buy
way
them time until they see who this exciting signing is.
yeah, if they're going, I imagine they will look to pick up more of these 20 to 25 million pound signings in the summer.
Yeah.
But if they're going to go big on anything, it's going to be a number nine, and I think they
Mm,
have to do that because we need to
hmm.
get in a proven goal scorer. Because the last two signings at number nine since Ronaldo left have been Serie
Yeah,
A players with very mediocre goal scoring records. So
absolutely.
this has to
Yeah,
change.
yeah. And the thing is, like, it's got to be, the scouting and stuff that's on point because you can't even blame these guys because the proof was there in what they did. Like, you brought in a striker who scored 9 goals in Serie A for 72 million total, 64 million up front. It's insane. Doesn't make sense in any walk
The
of
whole,
life.
the whole point of signing potential is to get a reasonably cheap deal. That
Yeah. So that just blows it all out of the water, doesn't it? Like, and also that's a deal like that sets precedent as well. So anyone who is half decent, well, clubs are going to be like, well, if he went for such and such, then our player's worth, more than
Mm.
that, or around thereabouts at least. So that's
So
what happens as well. You screw the market.
So if United want to go and sign Benjamin Sesko now, they're going to be
Mm.
quoted about 100 million because of the Hoyland fee.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? I'll tell you what, Sheshko is an interesting one because obviously he's still a bit of a project striker and that, but that might be a way in which you can part exchange one of our boys. I think that might be a good landing spot for one of the strikers we have because that's a project club.
Yeah, as long as Red Bull are willing to go
Yeah,
along with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because that's the thing. Because we have to think strategically and smart in terms of getting rid of some of these guys. Because if you just try to sell them in the market, you're going to make a loss. You can't recoup it any other way.
mhm, yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. But
Mm. Like
I think,
Rasmus Højlund for me would be prime time for Red Bull Leipzig. Like he's somebody that would fit that project.
what about the wages?
Well,
What's he on?
I don't know what he's on actually. I can't imagine he'll be on anything that high. But yeah, do you know what? Let me take a quick look and see if I can find what he's on roughly.
Probably still too high for someone of his position
Yeah, I
at the
mean,
club.
again, we have to think smart, right? So it might be that for the remainder of his existing contract, we'd have to
Hello,
contribute a certain part.
whether whether it's Sesko, Gyökeres, or Osimhen, there's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of clubs in for these players, including
Hmm.
Premier League rivals like Arsenal, Chelsea.
Yeah, this is the other thing. This is the other thing.
But hopefully we can get one of them over the
Yeah.
line.
The one thing that annoys me as well, though, is that, well, historically, what's annoyed me is that with other clubs, when they make mistakes, they don't really rest on their laurels. Previously, for us, I've always felt like if we make a mistake, we're just kind of stuck with those guys for ages.
Mm, yeah, and it's continuing to happen at the moment now.
Hmm.
Casemiro being an obvious example, and
Oh,
Rashford.
so apparently Rasmus is on about 85 grand a week. I don't think that's
Yeah,
too difficult to shift.
yeah, you would think that Red Bull could afford that, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually not bad. Mm.
he'd have to be willing to go there, and they would
Yep, yep,
have to be willing to take him. Let's see.
yeah. But when I look at the profile of player, like that league and also the Red Bull project in general, that's kind of how they operate. That would be the kind of player they look at. I think if
They
they
might
did, if
think
they did want to move him on, then that could be an interesting option.
that yeah they could develop him into
Yeah,
a better striker and then sell him on for a profit. I don't know.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
see.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. They had Sorloth, Timo Werner. Like, there's been other players there over the years that they've managed to, turn into something they can sell off.
But yeah, Arsenal are very keen on Benjamin Sesko, so that's something
Mm,
to be worried about.
hmm.
Uh, yeah, they're desperate for. So many clubs need a striker at the moment in the summer.
They're a dying breed, aren't they? There's not many of them out there that, So yeah, the
But
demand does raise.
yeah, hopefully we can get at least one of them. I seen Victor Osimhen scored against Ajax in the Europa League there. He continues to bang them in for Galatasaray, so
Mm,
I imagine he's going to be in demand in the summer because I think he's
hmm.
going to be a cut price sale from Napoli of about 60 million or so. It's not going to be anywhere
Mm.
near the 150 million mark, what was quoted a few years ago.
Oh hell no, yeah, definitely not. Like I mean, even Kvaratskhelia, who was much sought after, in the end he went for about just under 60 million pounds, which was a lot less than what was previously projected.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, but he must have seen the wages and offer at PSG and wanted out straight away.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they're not paying him like loads and loads. Like I think he's on about 200 grand a week now, but it's more than four times what he was on at Napoli.
Yeah, and thankfully, Garnacho is has stayed at Manchester United in this window.
Hmm.
That's not something that I wanted. I don't think it's something even the manager wanted.
Yeah.
And this is purely Jim Radcliffe and Ineos looking for pure profit on the balance sheet when it
Hmm.
comes to PSR.
I'll
Uh,
tell you what, with that, they need to do something about that. PSR, they're gonna have to rewrite something because I mean, I'm not a fan of the whole thing anyway, but they're gonna have to rewrite the rules on that. You you cannot incentivize selling your academy players.
yeah,
Like to make it more profitable for you to get rid of your homegrown players makes no sense to me. It has to be a level playing field.
yeah, it's ridiculous, and we've seen
Yeah,
clubs like Chelsea just having to sell off all their youth players. Look how
yeah, yeah.
they
You
were.
just become a bit soulless as well, like because that's the that should be the bread and butter of every football
And
club.
yeah, and Man City had to do it as well with Cole Palmer.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, like that's ever going to happen because the rules don't seem to apply to them. But if Man
Mm,
City were ever in a situation where they were close to breaking the PSR rules,
mm.
or they probably just bend them again and get away with it.
To be honest,
Could
to
you
be
imagine
honest,
them?
they're so rich. They could, you know what? If they really wanted to, they could just pay the fine, take the point deduction, and keep it moving.
Yeah. Could you imagine them in a situation where they were selling Phil Foden? You know, because
Yeah.
but it just that's the position that these PSR rules are putting other clubs in.
Hmm.
Like Chelsea basically had to just push Conor Gallagher out to the front door, even though
Yep.
he didn't. He kept walking backwards back into the door, and they're pushing him back out again. Go away!
Hmm.
We want the money. Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what.
It's quite a sad state of affairs, isn't it, when you really think about it? Because every club should take pride in their homegrown talent. Like even I'll tell you what, watching Arsenal versus Man City at the weekend, the young kids they've got coming up, the likes of Lewis Skelly and Ethan Nawari, it would be crazy for them to have to sell them off. You know, surely you take pride in the ones that come through your academy.
Yeah, but these stupid rules have led to clubs being forced into selling their
Yeah, and then
academy
it just it
product.
just becomes a game of FIFA, then doesn't it? It's just it's just completely soulless. It's meaningless, isn't it? Everyone just
Yeah,
buying and selling and going everywhere. Insane.
yeah, because if we sold Garnacho for 60 million
Yeah.
and sold Hoyland for 60 million, Garnacho would count for more under the
Mm.
PSR rules than
Yeah,
Hoyland.
and that's just insane to me. Like that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, because that would be the Hoyland
Hmm.
sale would count as a 13 million pound loss, I
Yeah.
think.
And I'm
Or
not against selling academy graduates, by the way, but I just think there's a time and place, and you do, owe a duty of care to use them as well. So, for example, I think Scott McTominay left at the right time and age for his career to move on to to new things. Rashford as well, he's come to the end of his tenure. I just think players like Garnacho, they're too young. Um, and also, like for the fee that was on offer, I think Napoli bidded about 45 million all in. I mean, that kind of offer surely is going to be on the table for someone like him in 4 or 5 years' time. Why rush to, push him through the door now when he's still learning, he's still adapting? And I'll tell you what, one thing that's really annoyed me, right, when people are speaking about Ruben Amorim, and they're all like, "Oh, if the manager wants him gone, get him gone." If the manager wants a player in, get behind it, support it. And we saw where that led under Ten Hag. You know, people were trying to justify what we were seeing when players like Weghorst came in. Oh, if the manager wants him, no, 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 no. You can look at it objectively and have an opinion on it. And also, there is no manager out there that has only one formation. I refuse to believe this. So if you're selling everyone that doesn't fit this one formation, what happens if you need to switch it up all of a sudden? Because all teams do it. Any team that plays this way, I've seen matches in Europe where they switch up their style. What makes this any different? Like, it's ridiculous to me. Just because he doesn't use conventional wingers doesn't mean you just suddenly sell all your wingers. What if a situation arises where that requires wingers?
But amazingly, even when he makes substitutions where he's taken off a defender for a forward
Hmm.
or he's taken off a midfielder for a forward, it's still the same formation. It never changes. So
Yeah. So yeah, it's that one. It's a bit of a mind bender for me because yeah, I've seen top coaches at other teams do it when they play one way in the league, one way in Europe, and you can go to a 4-3-3 from a back five. You can go to a 4-2-3-1 on occasion. Why must we be married to one thing? So then I think it's very short sighted if you operate that way and you only
it's
can play one way and you get rid of all other players that fit other formations. Like, it's stupid.
well, if they're going to go down this route, they need to stick with Amorim for a very long time. And
Yeah, yeah. And then you need to buy players that are versatile at the very least, that can do
yeah,
several things. Because you have to be adaptable. You have to be. You have to think of it like a
well,
Swiss Army knife.
Dorgu certainly is versatile,
Oh, he's very versatile. Yeah.
and and the manager is trying to add things to Garnacho's game so he can play as a left-sided number 10
Hmm.
rather than just a winger. So
Hmm.
and the manager feels that he's coming along in that respect and making
Yeah.
progress. So
I mean, you
he
can tell he's been trying. That's one thing I'll always give him. He'll always give it everything.
yeah, I think he responded very well to being dropped against Man City, unlike his
Yeah.
teammate who's now at Aston Villa. He
Hmm.
responded by going to Henry Winter, and
Yeah.
I would hesitate to guess that that interview with Henry Winter pissed off Amorim, and that was the end of their relationship.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I would read it,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's the worst thing you could have done after being dropped from Manchester Derby is going straight to the press to tell your story.
Definitely. Definitely. You would
So
think as well. I don't know who advises these people, man. Like, you need to take a look at the people in his camp. We saw how it went for Ronnie when he went to Piers Morgan. Like, why? Why would you? You know.
well, because he wanted to forge his way out. That's why.
Well, well, yes. But again, in this situation though, like, I am with Amarim, because in the past players have chipped away and managers have given in. So this time round, it's actually different. He's sticking by his guns. So yeah, yeah.
Yep. What I wanted to mention about Amorim is that I think one of the reasons why he is enforcing his style of play, number one, is because that's what he was brought in to do.
Hmm.
But number two, other managers before him have decided to adopt to the players that are already there to get the
Yeah,
best out of them and
yeah,
abandon their style of football. And all that
yeah,
has led to is their managers being sacked.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, I
he's
understand that, but I do think though that if we play to our strengths that we currently have in the team, we would pick up a few more points. But then the
yeah,
argument becomes to what end, because if he
that's,
does that now, then you have to start this all over again in the summer. So, it's one of those.
you heard him say that many times now in press
Yeah.
conferences where we're going to suffer
Yep. Yep.
where we're learning, but this is for the greater good in the long run.
And I tell you what, he's proper, hit that message home because I was listening to Bruno and I heard him use the keyword as well. I heard him say suffer. I was like, oh, here we go. I was like, oh,
So
here we go. This is the buzzword now. Everyone's talking about suffering.
Yeah, every manager seems to have their phrase or word that they always
Yeah,
use.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is his one. But yeah, so this season, like I say, I don't really see much change till summer, to be honest. Yeah, we're just gonna have to hope that he can hang in there and do something in
Yeah.
Europe. That's gonna be our only source of joy this season.
Yeah, get to the magic 40 points, win the
Yeah,
Europa
yeah.
League, and win the FA Cup, and that'll do me.
That'll be job done. That'll do me. Yeah, yeah. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah. And so, on that note, we shall leave it there. If everybody could
Yep.
please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and get more of your thoughts in. And appreciate all the listens on the downloads. And Brish, we will be back again after the Leicester City FA Cup game.
We shall. We shall indeed.
All right,
Take
I'll
care.
see you later.